So this book was in the school library of Kinloch Burvey High School, and the head teacher of that school is John Naples Campbell, a man who dresses as a woman for entertainment purposes, he says. So I've been very concerned about the content of this book. So I got in touch with John Naples Campbell. I emailed him and said the content of this book normalises sexual attraction to animals. It argues that pornography is harmful, promotes cross-generational sex, attacks virtually every aspect of traditional sexual morality, and its tone is aggressive and extreme. So I gave quite a lot of information about it, and I said this needs to be removed from your school library. And he replied saying, "Stop harassing me, I've reported you to the police." Which is just totally nuts, absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so I said to him, if you're not going to remove the book from your library, I'm going to take the matter further. I'm going to report it to Highland Council, and I'm going to raise the issue with the General Teaching Council for Scotland as well. And it turned out he wouldn't tell me, but people related to the school, they told me basically the book had been removed from the general section of the library and was removed to the 15 to 18-year-old section, which I thought basically not good enough. This should not be in a school library, full stop. So I took the matter further to Highland Council and the General Teaching Council of Scotland, and I'm going to tell you what they had to say. Let's go to Highland Council first, shall we? So I sent them the full information about it being pro-pornography, about some of the perverted images, BDSM, polyamory, anti-heterosexual, aggressive and extreme tone. So they had the full situation endorsing sexual attraction to different species. So, of most concern is the citing of species as a valid object of sexual orientation. The message is clear. Some people might be sexually attracted to animals of a certain kind. Children reading the book are tacitly invited to consider whether this is the case with them, and if it is, to regard this as a valid form of sexuality. Children with close and affectionate relationships with animals could be led to interpret these as sexual attraction. So I made it very, very clear what was going on. I also had a chat with ChatGPT about the matter. And I asked, what's the law in Scotland with regard to these matters, with regard to corrupting children? And, well, this is where we ended up. So I said to ChatGPT, would suggesting that children see sexual attraction to animals as a valid sexuality amount to corrupting? And ChatGPT said this, yes. Suggesting to children that sexual attraction to animals is a valid form of sexuality would likely be considered corrupting under Scottish law. It's illegal in Scotland, and promoting such ideas to children would be viewed as exposing them to harmful or morally inappropriate content. Under Scottish child protection laws, particularly the Sexual Offences Scotland Act 2009, actions that involve exposing children to indecent or harmful ideas, especially those related to sexual exploitation, abuse or illegal activities, can be considered a crime. This could fall under the provisions such as indecent communications with a child, or causing a child to engage or be exposed to sexual activity or behaviours that are considered morally or legally wrong. In this case, encouraging children to view bestiality as acceptable could be seen as an attempt to undermine their moral development and expose them to illegal concepts which would fit under the broader interpretation of corrupting or harming a child's understanding of healthy and legal behaviours. The law's purpose is to protect children from such influences, especially where they involve legal activities or deviant sexual behaviours. Now, I'm not saying that means it definitely would be prosecuted in a court of law, but it's an indication that, well, this is maybe skating on thin ice legally in any case. So, what did Highland Council have to say? They considered the case and replied thus. I can confirm that as soon as the presence of this book in the library was highlighted, it was removed from the general library area and placed in a section only accessible by senior pupils, as the book is aimed at 15 to 18-year-olds. Right, I mean, that's just useless, completely useless. This book should not be in a school library, full stop. Right, what else do they have to say? The book is recommended by the Scottish Book Trust and is in line with LGBTQ plus legislation and the Scottish Curriculum for Excellence, and so I consider this action to be appropriate. The book was purchased before Mr. Naples Campbell took up his post, and he could not reasonably be expected to have known of its existence amongst the hundreds of other books in the library. Now, you probably don't need me to tell you why that response is hopeless. This is what I said in any case. So the response is inadequate because the promotion in school of bestiality, polyamory, BDSM, perverted sex acts and pornography is wrong for any age of pupil. Now, I increasingly have this experience speaking to people that you put forward something that you know absolutely something's wrong. Your conscience tells you it's wrong. You would assume that the person you're talking to as well, their conscience would also tell them that it's wrong. But it's as though you're speaking a foreign language. It's though there's no conscience. There's no moral standards to appeal to in people. And that's what it felt like with Highland Council. Anyway, number 2, the Scottish Book Trust is a left-wing progressive campaigning group masquerading as a literary charity. They have no expertise in educational and moral matters, and their view of the book is irrelevant. I've made videos about the Scottish Book Trust before. In one of them, they recommended 20 books, and something like 18 of them were on like left-wing progressive political causes. So their view of the book is totally irrelevant. Right, the next point I made. The promotion in schools of bestiality, polyamory, BDSM, perverted sex acts and pornography is not in line with LGBTQ plus legislation. No law is cited because there is not one that is remotely relevant. I question the integrity of the council for claiming that there is. On the contrary, the more pressing concern is whether providing such material to children could be illegal. Again, this is what like the Equality Act, etc. This is what it does. It just makes people on with certain points of view that align with the government. It makes people feel that those views are the legal ones, and if you disagree with those, it's probably illegal somehow. We don't quite know how, but there's something called the Equality Act, so we must be right and you must be wrong. Not quite sure how the law works, but that's probably what it means. But this is from Highland Council. This is their official response, and they come out with things like this. Right, the next point I made in response. The promotion in school of bestiality, polyamory, BDSM, perverted sex acts and pornography is not in line with the Scottish Curriculum for Excellence. I mean, what an outrageous claim. The Curriculum for Excellence does not remotely specify that any things like that need to be taught. So the council said no relevant section of Curriculum for Excellence is cited because there is none. So total nonsense. But again, the council's got the effrontery to just present this that they know is absolute nonsense. It's completely untrue, but they're happy to put that on their official response and their letter. This is what we say, case closed. Well, maybe it's not quite closed yet. We'll come on to that later. Mr. Naples Campbell may not have been aware of this book and its contents on his arrival at Kinlochbervie High School, but he was made aware of it, including by me, and he chose to continue the book's availability in the school library. So of course it would be unreasonable to say, haha, we found this book, so we're complaining about him. The head teacher shouldn't have allowed this, but he made the decision. So he was told, this is the book, this is what's in it, it's in your library, what are you going to do about it? And his answer was, that's going to stay in my school library. So therefore he is responsible. So the council's suggestion that Naples Campbell is not responsible is absolutely ridiculous, but I can certainly hold Highland Council responsible. So let's go on to my complaints to the General Teaching Council for Scotland now. They replied saying, this is not really John Naples Campbell's responsibility, it's the council's fault. John Naples Campbell has been backed up by the council, so if something's gone wrong here, this is a systems failure in the council, not that John Naples Campbell has done something wrong. So the idea is basically John Naples Campbell is just obeying orders, and that lets him off the hook completely. Now, I don't believe GTCS is lying there. If this had been an appallingly racist book, just imagine that, the most appallingly directly racist book you can imagine, in a school library, and the head teacher said, no, that book is staying there. What would General Teaching Council for Scotland? Would they have just said, oh, that's a system failure. It's not really his fault because the council backed him up. Well, no, of course not. They would have taken appropriate action. Now, John Naples Campbell and GTCS, General Teaching Council for Scotland, they are sort of pals. John Naples Campbell had an award from them a while ago. He's got that on his X bio, etc. So General Teaching Council for Scotland, we basically got what we expected from them. When I said children need a mum and dad ideally, and therefore I don't think same-sex parenthood is ideal, they dragged me through a process for almost 3 years, basically trying to strike me off, but it didn't quite succeed in the end. But if you decide to keep a book like this in your school library, then General Teaching Council for Scotland said, that's fine, no, we're on your side, don't you worry about it, no case to answer. There's something else to say about this. The section about sex with animals in particular, the section that we've drawn attention to, it's a quote from an author. But in this book, the authors are presented as building up a picture of what queer theory is all about, and it's commended as this is something you can live your life on the basis of. Now, somebody might say when the author says species, she didn't really mean different species of animal. Now, let's say that's true. I don't know if it is, but let's say that's true. But still, what's in the book in the school library, the clear, obvious, blatant reading of it is that that's what it does mean. That's what different species means. So we're not having anyone trying to get off the hook on that basis as well. I mean, no one's put forward that defence from the council or John Naples Campbell or anyone else, but it's not going to work if they do try it. What this just makes me realise, I mean, this is Swinney, Scotland, isn't it? You see John Swinney challenged about a serious moral issue, and all he can reply with is procedures and processes and committees, and it's as though the actual core of the issue doesn't penetrate into his mind. He can't register, he can't engage with the actual moral core issue. He can only talk about management babble and processes and procedures, and it's really very, very concerning. Anyway, so GTCS and Highland Council have both failed to take this issue seriously. So I've now passed it on from Highland Council. The next step up from them is to the Scottish Public Service Ombudsman. So I've sent the same report to them. Now, what will they be doing? Probably as we speak, there's someone in their offices with a big folder with all their policies in, and they're searching through their policies to see if there's anything about like teaching children that sexual attraction to animals is normal. Is that in their policies? They'll probably look through all their policies and say, no, we haven't got a policy on that, so that must be fine. We've got nothing to say. I'm expecting that's what we'll get from them. I've also complained to the Scottish Book Trust. What will I get back from them? Oh no, there's absolutely zero possibility there's going to be any decent values in that organisation to appeal to. So they will reject my complaint as well. I was thinking of going to Education Scotland and saying, Highland Council say this material is in line with the Curriculum for Excellence. Is that correct? I could also ask the Scottish Government the same question. Is this material in line with the Curriculum for Excellence? And what legal framework is this in line with? Now, again, I know full well people will read that complaint. They'll say, is this in line with the Curriculum for Excellence? And in Education Scotland, Scottish Government, they'd look at my letter and they'll say, no, of course it isn't. No, it's not. But then they think, hang on a minute. Lucas is a bad person. John Naples Campbell is a good person. So what we need to do, we need to find some excuse to dismiss this case and to be on the side of John Naples Campbell. Any absolute moral judgment just goes completely out of the window. I mean, I find it quite troubling. It really feels like if you've got a properly functioning conscience, you've got no place in modern Scotland.